It's late January 2026 in Beijing. Inside the Zhang compound, something unprecedented has happened. China's highest-ranking operational military commander, Zhang Youxia, vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, second in command of the People's Liberation Army, has been purged. Zhang is not just another general. He is the son of a founding revolutionary commander, a second-generation CCP elite. One of the very few senior PLA officers with real combat experience, a man who survived decades of factional struggle until now. And he was not alone. Within days, another general, Zhenli, is removed. Before them, Li Shangfu, Wei Fenghe, Miao Hua, He Weidong, Ma Xingzhui, and multiple theater commanders. The procurement and rocket force leaderships. The Central Military Commission, the body that controls millions of soldiers, is effectively reduced to two people, Xi Jinping and one surviving general. This has never happened before. Not under Deng, not under Zhang, not even under Mao. On paper, power in China has never been more concentrated. But in reality, the system is entering a dangerous phase. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you're here. If you're interested in geopolitics, international security, and how authoritarian systems work, you're in the right place. Today's video will look at the unfolding military and political leadership crisis in China and what these purges mean, how they affect China's fighting capacity, and why this moment may actually increase long-term risks, especially around Taiwan. So what is the most recent purge that happened? On January 24, 2026, China's Ministry of National Defense announced that Zhang Youxia, vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, or CMC, and Zhenli, a member of the CMC who also served as chief of the Joint Staff Department, were placed under investigation, and cases were opened against them for serious disciplinary violations. According to the PLA Daily, they committed 5 serious wrongdoings, claiming that they badly betrayed the trust of the party leadership, seriously undermined the authority of the CMC chairman, which is Xi Jinping, fueled corruption that weakened the party's control over the military, damaged the CMC's credibility, and hurt the morale of officers and soldiers. Zhang Youxia is a second-generation CCP leader. He was born and raised in Beijing and is the son of Zhang Zhongxun, a communist general in the Chinese Civil War, making Zhang Youxia a princeling. He served in the army since 1968 and was first stationed in the Yunnan province and was rapidly promoted. He took part in the Sino-Vietnamese War in 1979 and, thanks to his performance, was rapidly promoted. He also led troops to the Battle of Laoshan in 1984, which was also against Vietnam. And after this, he was immediately promoted to deputy commander of the 40th Division of the Army, after which he had several leadership roles in the Army and obtained the rank of Major General in 1997 and Lieutenant General in 2007. He became a member of the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party in 2007 as well, and in 2011 he was promoted general. He was very committed to accelerate research and development of high-tech weapons and military equipment, and in November 2012 he was named a member of the Central Military Commission. He was also director of the Equipment Development Department, which headed China's human spaceflight program, and he was chief flight officer of the Chenzhou 10 spacecraft. In October 2017, Zhang was named a member of the Politburo of the Chinese Communist Party and second-ranking vice chairman of the CCP Central Military Commission. And in October 2022, was reappointed as the first-ranking CMC vice chairman. The accusations that were published by the PLA Daily for his arrest are actually more severe than the one that were previously held against He Weidong, the former vice chairman of the CMC. And it is speculated that his downfall might be related to the 2023 Chinese rocket force case that saw the arrest of at least 70 individuals in an intelligence leak scandal. So from mid-2023 onward, the Chinese Central Military Commission, the CMC, launched a sweeping anti-corruption investigation into violations of military equipment procurement rules, particularly affecting the PLA rocket force and senior defense officials. The probe began with a public call for clues about procurement violations dating back to 2017 and quickly expanded into investigations of top rocket force commanders, including Youxia, and senior officers who were removed and replaced. Overall, the events mark one of the most extensive anti-corruption purges in China's military years, centered on equipment procurement and the rocket force top leadership. But the Wall Street Journal also reported that there was a briefing to the top military official in which it was said that his arrest was linked to allegedly forming political cliques, promoting Li Shangfu as defense minister in exchange of large bribes, and leaking core technical data on Chinese nuclear weapons to the United States. Along with Zhang, General Zhenli was also purged. He was chief of the CMC's Joint Staff Department, and he held several positions as chief of staff of several army groups in the past decades. He participated as well in the Sino-Vietnamese conflicts, and he and his men successfully defended the line against the Vietnamese assault 36 times. And since 2024, the Central Military Commission, CMC, has lost 5 of its 7 members and only 2 remain. Xi Jinping himself, who is not a military commander, and General Zhang, who is a CMC member and secretary of the Discipline Inspection Commission, the lowest rank in the whole commission. Officially, every removal followed the same script: serious violations of discipline and law. In CCP language, this means corruption. And corruption is real, but it also is universal in this regime. And so they're used more as an excuse to remove a political adversary rather than a real anti-corruption campaign. And in this context, Xi Jinping has several elements that he can use to go after each person that he wants to purge. Understanding technology might get you purged for corruption, and understanding politics can get you purged for backing the wrong faction. But if you understand how wars actually are fought, you can be purged because you hold real power, especially in the context of China's ambition to bring Taiwan under its control by force if necessary. The ones that remain are not the cleanest, but the most loyal, and paradoxically, probably the least useful, because they will not provide accurate and thoughtful work, as they fear this could end them too. So why is Zhang Youxia's removal different? So he was in a way personally connected to Xi Jinping through their revolutionary families. He had been driving the army's tech modernization, logistics, and joint operations, and he was one of the few rare exceptions of military leaders that had actual combat experience, and was one of the last professional military counterweights inside the system. If even he can be eliminated, it tells us something crucial. There is no longer any protected constituency inside the PLA, and the old balance between political loyalty, professional competence, and institutional feedback is gone. So on the surface, Xi Jinping has achieved something extraordinary. He has neutralized all rival power centers. He has also removed all dissenting professional voices and centralized decision-making to a degree unseen since Mao. But systems like this have a fatal flaw. When no one is allowed to contradict the leader, information stops flowing upward, and warnings become disloyalty, caution becomes obstruction, and bad news disappear. This is how leaders become isolated from reality, and we've seen this before with Putin before and in Ukraine, for example. In such cases, leaders make devastating decisions based on biased information. So what does this mean for the Chinese army? Well, in the short run, this purge will likely slow things down. Why? Because the PLA's entire command structure is in shock. Joint operations, which are essential for any Taiwan scenario, depend on trust, coordination, and rehearsed authority. And right now, commanders are most likely watching who gets arrested, avoiding responsibility, prioritizing survival over initiative, and doing nothing becomes the safest option. When Stalin purged the Red Army in the 30s, he knew the USSR was not ready for war. That's why the Soviet Union signed a temporary peace with Nazi Germany in 1939 to buy time and rebuild. She may face a similar calculation. And for Taiwan, this should logically push any invasion further down the line. But one could argue that this could drive China to attack once President Xi effectively put only military leaders that will listen and not question his decisions, and he will be free to order an invasion as he pleases. The real issue is decision quality. A future PLA leadership selected primarily from political loyalty will present overly optimistic assessments, downplay costs, and filter information to match expectations. This creates a dangerous pattern of filtered information and greater risk of miscalculation. An invasion could be decided as leaders misjudged reality. The most unstable variable here is not the military, it is Xi himself. He has built a political identity around historical destiny, personal infiability, the belief that this is China's time and the West is in decline. A leader who cannot be wrong is uniquely vulnerable to making catastrophic decisions. If rebuilding the military takes longer than expected, if external pressure rises, if he believes the window is closing, ego may override readiness. Again, taking Russia as an example here, Putin gravely misjudged the situation before his full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Many reports indicated that he isolated himself from contradictory reports and chose to be surrounded by yes-men. That only skewed his understanding of reality. And Xi finds himself in a similar position today, purging anyone that could be a threat to his authority, but in the process making himself vulnerable to failure, as no one will be able to tell him that this is not a good idea. So what does this mean going forward? The purge did not make war inevitable, but it reshapes the risk, weakening professional military judgment, increasing the chance of filtered intelligence, and rising the probability of unintended escalation. China today looks powerful, but internally its military's leadership is hollowed out. And if we look back at history, systems that silence competence often discover reality through crisis. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you very soon in the next video.